Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Lower Makefield Township Ad Hoc Property Committee meeting of December 8th. My name is Dennis Stedman, the chair of the committee. We have 5 of our 7 committee members present, with the 6th one expected to join momentarily, as well as our 2 Board of Supervisor liaisons on this call. We appreciate your time and attention tonight as we address the issues ahead. With a quorum, and here is Jim Scott. Thank you, Jim. We have the 6 that we expect tonight. I'd like to call this meeting to order. The first piece of business is to approve the minutes of the prior meetings. The agenda says that we'll approve the minutes of the November 18th meeting, which we will do, and also the September 28th minutes require formal action as well. So for those 2 items, I'll turn it over to our secretary, Beth.
Both of these were issued the November 18th just last night or early this morning for you. So you'll let the committee will let me know if that's you need more time to review them. But I'll do a motion initially to accept the September 28th minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll make a motion to approve the November 18th minutes as well.
Second.
Okay. All in favor to approve those minutes as presented? November
Aye.
18th? Aye. Very good.
Looks unanimous. I'll
Very
turn it back
good.
over to you, Dennis. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. The next agenda items, we have updates on various topics that the committee needs to discuss. As the committee discusses these, I just want to just make a comment at the opening. This committee is tasked with sorting out some complicated issues and important issues on important asset of Lower Makefield Township. The Board of Supervisors have asked us to explore alternative uses, do the financial analysis, make recommendations. This committee is not a decision-making committee. This committee does not make decisions. It's going to make recommendations to the township. And in order for this committee to do its work, we need to be able to discuss wide-ranging alternatives on many, many topics. And so I just state that simply because the committee, during a couple-hour meeting, one idea or another may be put forward or tossed out. I don't want any member of the public to view one statement of an idea as, oh my God, they made a decision. That's not the case. When a recommendation is to be made to the Board of Supervisors, we will make those recommendations. In the meantime, we need to be able to discuss wide-ranging alternatives in this open and public forum. And so I just feel that the need to kind of say, just because one idea or another is objectionable or favorable to one party or another, does not mean that that idea is suddenly fait accompli. That's not how we operate. That's not how it's possible to operate. So with that being said, I'd ask to get an update from the Historical Subcommittee. I know there's been a fair amount of work done. James, if you could, as our subcommittee chair, if you could lead that discussion and welcome anyone else to chime in.
Sure. So I know we were messaging Dennis about getting an actual document from about the different histories and significances and possible avenues for historic preservation for all these different properties, and especially talking about a name, and we're proposing some names for some of those properties. So next week on the 13th, the Historic Commission is meeting as a whole, and then at some point in between probably in the week after, but between then and Christmas, we're looking to just do a working meeting to go over how we're going to create this document and some of the things that we expect to put into it. And then hopefully having that completed document for this committee by the new year. So that's our current plan. If anyone has any specific like requests for what they might want us to look into, feel free to shoot me an email and let me know. Hopefully before the 13th. But if anything comes up after that, that would be great. I know Dennis already asked about the names specifically, but if there's anything else that people have lingering questions about, maybe wanted expanded from Helen's presentation, or anything that was maybe unclear, then please let us know. But we're working on that now.
I have a question.
Sure.
In reviewing the minutes, it looks like the caretaker's house was the oldest property at somewhere around 1696 or earlier, according to Dr. Hines. And then they cited the expansion of the Janney house, Janney Brown farmhouse, for the 1837. But I'm curious to get a handle on whether or not there was a single farmhouse there prior to 1837. I was told initially that there was a one-room farmhouse there, and the hearth in there was 1730. So I just like clarification on that so I can get a sequence. And
Sure.
then the Satterthwaite property comes in at, I'm not sure, 1820, I think.
So I think I'm not sure if those dates are coming from. Are those coming from Helen's presentation or from any of the documents that we have in the Google Drive?
I thought from Helen's presentation, I was trying to put a sequence together, and I'm not clear on it. She talked about a lot of things. So if you could just get that chronology cleared up,
Yeah.
I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for letting me know. That's I think one of the biggest things that we have to cover, and is very difficult because, I mean, when I was first doing the research on this through the documents that are in the Google Drive, that was the biggest discrepancy, was the actual dates. So I want to talk to Helen about that and get that settled, because different reports from decades apart say different dates and have multiple founding dates for these buildings and stuff like that. So but yeah, I'll be sure to include that.
Thank you.
And James, those kind of original dates, those critical dates, I know that some of those are documented and known, and some are estimates, some are less than well documented. And I guess what I would ask that the committee do as you try to put together kind of these snapshot summaries of each property, those critical dates and what you think their labels, proper labels ought to be. I mean, it's fine to, I expect a lot of footnotes, right? If somebody wants to say it's 1784 asterisk, strong belief, some evidence but not known, or asterisk, still a guess, or double asterisk, known and rock solid. I mean, that's all fine. We don't need a lot of verbiage to it, but I think some that kind of annotation is helpful, because I think the committee and the Board of Supervisors are looking for what is known today as best as we can, recognizing that some of this will be work in process or in progress for some time potentially, but at least we have kind of a stake in the ground that we can all take and kind of operate with from the same page, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to make it clear what dates are verified by what, and if we're estimating it based on like architectural style, for example, then we'll make that kind of thing clear.
Okay, perfect. That's perfect.
That's it for me, if there's no other question.
Okay, other questions for on the historical questions and issues that we have? Really appreciate the committee, the historical committee, digging into this. It's important input to this work. If no other input or questions from the committee, the next would be potential new uses. Bet, any
Yes.
updates or something you want to provide?
I don't have any other updates. I took the information that John gave us with his edits, and I put that into a big document. Let me see if I can find it and I can bring it up. And added some of our other comments, trying to put in, and I think perhaps Dennis, you did this part with kind of a summary. Can I put that up on screen for everybody? I will. I
Sure,
can.
yeah. I'm not.
I shall.
I'm not sure what you're Go for it, Bet.
This is the, we started talking about making overall summary recommendations, kind of a narrative. Dennis kind of took some of these together as opposed to, as you look at the individual houses, that's the Slack house, you recall. And I sent this document out to everyone and I didn't get any other comments back. So gonna have to let me know if there's any other
This is
issues.
what
So you'll see I'm sorry, Dennis.
It's a living draft. Nothing is
Yes.
in stone here. It needs, there's different sections that need new input and editing and other things.
Right. Like, for example, the caretaker's house. We added open as a historic tour because it may be the oldest house in Lower Makefield. I back in the minutes, Helen suggested it might be the oldest structure in Bucks County that remains. So that's, I don't know. That's another thing, James, you have to look at as to the veracity of that kind of a statement. But certainly one of the oldest, Pensbury coming in 1890s as well, or Pensbury Manor. That's what I want to say. So, so we've added a lot of things. Everybody's ideas, I hope, are in here that we can all take a look at. So even to the point like the corn crib, we talked about the corn crib and, some people, could it be moved? Does it stay? It's really, part of one of those charming historic buildings that really add to the character of the farmstead. So do we keep it? Do we not keep it? Do we, so there's a lot of discussions all over the place. So again, we'll stop sharing and say, was there any other discussion anybody had or other input? Do you want more time on that? How do you want to move forward on that?
I would, I know it's been a few weeks since I've looked at that. There may be some additional thoughts. Would it be fair if I asked each committee member to be sure to go through that document and make any edits, provide any new ideas, any input that they can before our January meeting, kind of establish that as another threshold.
Right.
If we can have an update before our meeting, then that would be useful to discuss.
Right. And remember, it's in Word, so any changes or suggestions you should send to me so we have a unified document.
Okay.
Please.
One update, or a small update, in conversation on the Slack house with Spirit Golf, the current managers of Makefield Highlands. They are working on a proposal. It'll be a first, it'll be a draft. It won't be the only, and I would expect we'll have proposals from other companies as well, but they expected to get their first draft proposal, which I see as kind of some important economic input potentially by the end of the year. So that's not very far away. So that's the target that they've established for themselves, just FYI. So hopefully the first week of January, we'll have something else there to chew on. Anything else from anyone on potential new uses? Hearing none, a bit of an update on the bank barns. Separate from this, Fred Childs, who could not be here with us tonight, has a particular interest in the bank barns, and he has been able to make some connections with help from other members of the historical committee to some groups focused on these kinds of barns. There's a National Barn Association. They have a video. It's well over an hour of a discussion entitled "Stamp Out Bank Barns." Stamp Out Barn Loss. Stamp Out Barn Loss.
Oh, good.
Yeah, didn't make sense. Anyway, I've asked Fred to kind of lead the efforts on everything having to do with those bank barns. We've talked about various uses. The current farming tenant, Shoreland Farms, has expressed some interest and ability to store equipment and straw in at least one of the barns and to use it as an active, agricultural asset that could be amended onto their agricultural lease. That's going to require some engineering assessments on the capability, the weight bearing capabilities, and the condition of those buildings, obviously, before they could be put to that use. But so the committee knows, anything having to do with the use, reuse, and issues associated with the barns, Fred, that all those roads are going to kind of go across Fred's desk, if you will. I've asked him to lead that, and I think that'll help give us a bit of a focus. Which leads to kind of the next topic. I know I don't see Kurt Ferguson on the call, but I've asked Kurt, the township manager, to begin the process of looking at some kind of early engineering reports that I think the committee is going to need to make recommendations. Some of the cost estimates and engineering reports we have now are either non-existent or quite dated. Specifically, in order to help sort out what our options are with the two bank barns, I've asked Kurt to look into getting some estimates there on their weight bearing capacity and what might be involved in bringing them up to that kind of strength and stature for use. It's been some time since those have been looked at, and if you walk through the barns, you realize that great space on the second floor. It's wonderful, could be used for a variety of things. But if the foundation and the first floor structures, if the wood beams, etc., can't bear the weight, then we don't want anybody parking a tractor in there or filling it up with straw. So those two assessments are going to be needed in short order, and I exchanged some communications with him today. I know he's working on that. The other is that are needed in the short term is the slack house. I don't believe we have really any kind of quantitative assessment of its condition and the kind of changes that would be necessary to bring that into a usable structure. I'm not talking about finishes. I'm talking about the fundamental systems and strength. Certainly the caretaker's cottage, as Beth said, that is a historical gem, or probably the crown jewel of these historical sites from what we've learned from Dr. Hines. And if I think we're due for some assessments on what it would take to bring that into up to par, just in terms of stability. It seems to be in good condition now. It's being used, but I think we should have a formal look at that. Same is true of the Satterswaite House. That needs to have more of a formal assessment. I think the assessment we've had last is quite dated. So that's not the only kind of engineering assessments we would need, but those kind of rank at the top of the list in terms of timing, because they have major influences on potential uses of some of these buildings, and the magnitude of the repairs, the magnitude of the expenditures that might be needed, and some repairs maybe we can do through volunteer efforts and grants. Others are maybe more larger repairs than that. So I've asked that of Kurt Ferguson, and I know he's working on it. And what he's working on is a cost estimate, because I don't know what kind of expenditure we're asking the township to make in order to advance those topics. And obviously that'll have to go to the Board of Supervisors for any sort of spending approval. The other thing that I've asked Kurt for is any statements that the township can make in terms of their needs, the township's needs for office space, storage, beyond the facilities stuff. I know some, some equipment, paving equipment and things being stored there, but as the, if there's supplements needed to the township building itself, record storing, office space, that kind of thing. And he's going to look into that. I know he didn't have a document on the shelf that he could provide us in terms of those future needs, but it's as we look at all the various alternatives, that's something that needs to be just needs to be factored in. Other business, other issues from the committee members, updates, things that anyone's been working on or communicating on?
I can report that the cats have been collected and relocated and found new homes, and that the township has secured that cat door on the Patterson barn.
Good.
So it's done. It's locked up now.
Okay. All right. Good.
Fred, did you have something?
Yes. To add to what Beth said, the township was going to be securing all the buildings and securing any undermining by the critters to the foundation as well. So so we're beginning the stabilization process. And of course, as Beth said, we're closing up the holes. Looking forward to seeing a preliminary report pretty soon. So I know you guys all are working hard, so we're not too concerned about it.
Thank you, Fred. I'm operating on the presumption, Fred and James McCartney, that the township does have some budgetary leeway to hire some engineers or to hire some experts to do some of these kinds of assessments that we're talking about, that will be necessary as input to this committee's recommendation. These would be some assessments necessary before we can make a recommendation, not simply after a recommendation. I presume there's some leeway and budgetary leeway there.
Well, I think I can speak for James and myself, but I think it'll be up to the chair. But I have a feeling that in the first quarter of next year, we will be discussing how much money will be allocated to the restoration and renovation of these structures. And also, once we have that figure pinned down, depending on, potential uses, especially for the slack house, if Spirit wants to take that responsibility over, it'll be determined how much we can actually do on the remaining structures, or all the structures, depending on what happens by then. But I think, unless James has another idea, I'm sure the first quarter will give us some clarity as far as money. What do you think,
No,
James?
I think that, I would agree with that. I think, and honestly, we do have to give, Dennis and you guys an opportunity to see from an engineering standpoint, what is going to be viable and what's feasible with the existing buildings. It's tough to ask for a recommendation if you don't really know, structurally what you're dealing with.
That's exactly right. There needs to be some money spent before we could determine how much money needs to be spent. There needs to be, and I don't know, but as an example, there needs to be a $20,000 engineering study to be spent to determine, is this a $2 million project that isn't feasible, or is it a $750,000 project that is feasible? And so some of those, some of that upfront investment in engineering kind of assessments are necessary before any recommendation can be made on how much money to spend. That's the chicken and egg of it.
Fred, do you know if they did a prior assessment on the? I know that they did a prior assessment of renovation on Satterway. Was that part of it?
I think it was 2 years ago. They did
Yeah.
a complete study on what needs to be done for the Satterthwaite house.
Dennis, have you guys had an opportunity to review that?
Yeah, yes, we have. If it's only 2 years old, then I'll stand corrected. I thought it was much older than that, but I'll go back and look at that.
I assume that engineering was part of that. What walls, what foundation needed to be shored
Remington
up.
Burnick did a complete assessment of the needs and what it would cost to renovate the house.
Okay.
Mitigate the hazardous materials, shore up the foundation. We probably, I don't know if it went into mechanicals, but I don't think that's not an issue with engineering. It's just to assess the bones and see about what it would cost. Of course, we'd have to update the cost because of the increased cost of materials, but it would be up to the board to decide how much money that the board wants to invest in all these properties. But as far as whatever the needs for engineering, if the committee, this is my take, if the committee feels that we should direct our efforts to the certain buildings, then we'll try to make it happen.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Can I just clarify? Does that mean that if Spirit Golf is putting in some preliminary proposals, that we wouldn't need the township engineers to look at the slack house necessarily? Or does one preclude the other?
I don't see it that way. I mean, I'm operating. I mean, there's a number of ways. If in fact the final and best use of the slack house is in association with an event venue on Makefield Highlands, if that's the final case, there's going to be significant money needed to be invested in the slack house itself. and significant money that needs to be invested in an event venue to go with it. How much of that money would be invested by the, and I'm also operating on the premise that Lower Makefield would like to keep that property and as part of the asset, part of the real estate of the Makefield Highlands. If that's the case, then if there's an event tenant who is renting that, they're going to want a very long-term lease to get and how much they put in to that to those renovations and those investments versus how much the township puts in is going to be a function of what that lease looks like. There's also a scenario where the township could sell some of that asset, and now the new owner is going to put their capital into it and make it their own, versus leaving it a township asset that is then leased and generating income. There's a lot of variables there. I don't expect the township to pay for the renovations exclusively, nor would I expect a tenant, a long-term tenant who's responsible for that facility to pay for all of it themselves either. It's undoubtedly going to be some blend depending upon the economics of the lease and the renovations.
Okay.
I mean, Jim, you're in the commercial real estate world. You're an expert in that. What you have thoughts on that specific topic?
I think you covered it pretty well. Spirit's a for-profit operator, so they're going to have to do their own math as far as what their return on investment is, and they're going to figure out what it requires, what they're going to make, and I assume that's going to dictate what they're willing to do and what they're going to ask the township for. So I think the next move is theirs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm sure if the township, if in fact that is the end result, that the township wants to own a venue, an event venue, managed by a management company, and sharing the profits thereof, that's going to be an RFP issued for others to bid on. It's not just a Spirit Golf only bid, but I think given their relationship and their position today, it only makes sense to at least get their initial bid to help set some parameters and size this opportunity and this challenge, to at least give us some early estimates to go on. Are there any other updates, any other issues that the committee wants to bring up? Any other business whatsoever for this meeting? Hearing none, I would ask Erica. Erica, do we have any public comments?
No public comment.
Okay. All right, having no public comments, this might be a pretty brief meeting. Bet, have you been keeping some notes on action items that we've agreed to prior to the next meeting?
Yes, I have. So James Nice is going to get us get a report out of the Historic Commission, which is due the end of the month, January 1st, and fill in some of the notes in there that about the chronology of the buildings. Spirit Golf is also due to get us a report by the end of December, and Da, 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 da. And everybody on the committee is asked to review the working document that was sent out about each property and their end uses and the initial scope of recommendations that are in there.
Right.
Alternatives, I should say. They're not recommendations yet.
And did you have, did you include a report from the historical committee by January 1?
Yes.
You did. Okay, thank you. All right. With that, we need to schedule January, and I'd suggest a February meeting. If we have, we have to coordinate with the township and the availability of this Zoom resource. But are there any today known blackout days or weeks in January where you can't be available? I would say, and we'll try to avoid that, and then I'll work with Katie in the township office by email to get some dates established.
I'm looking, I got to go back and look at the minutes because we talked about a January, some January dates.
We did, but we don't have any, right?
They're not scheduled with the township, you mean?
Right.
I
Right.
see. Okay.
But they aren't, so we do have the dates that we talked about in November, right? Okay.
Yes.
In that case, thanks for that reminder. I'll follow up with Katie to work on those dates and see if we can't get something nailed down in January. And I would target that kind of that third week, the week of the 17th, just to get a little distance behind the from the holidays. And anyone traveling, that is Martin Luther King weekend, Monday the 17th. If people are out of town, raise your hand. Otherwise, we'll go by those dates from our last meeting.
Hang on, just hang on a minute while I try to bring up the minutes, because we did talk about them.
I have it right here too.
Do you have them at the end?
I do.
It's only 37 pages, so hang
Only
on.
37 pages. This is. Yeah.
Have a tentative dates of January 6th as a working session, at the regular meeting being held on January 13th, and a potential date if we still needed another January meeting of the 27th.
Okay.
Those all work for me.
Are those working for others? 6, 13, and 27?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I may have an issue with 13th, but that's yet to be resolved. So I'll work with Katie on that if I do. Okay. All right. So if everyone could put a hold at least on those three dates, and I'll work with Katie to firm some things up. Any other issues? If not, everybody's going to get out early. All right. Hearing none, I propose we call this meeting to an adjournment.
Seconded.
All right. All in favor? We are.
Aye.
Everybody have a great holiday.
Have a great holiday, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Safe travels if you're traveling.
See you.
Everyone stay healthy.
See you next
see
year.
See you in 2022.
Read your homework.
Thank you.
Do your homework.
Yes, ma'am.